This is Scott Drake. You're watching the Legal Broadcast Network. Chris Brown pled guilty to felony assault in Los Angeles yesterday, and here to talk about it is my guest. Back again, criminal defense attorney Michael Kraut in Los Angeles at Kraut Law Group. He's a former deputy DA and a prosecutor. Welcome back, Michael.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so he gets 5 years of probation. What else is part of the sentence?
Well, he was sentenced to 5 years state prison with no custody time. He'll also do what's called the equivalent of community service, but he has to do either Caltrans, which is picking up beside the highways trash and taking debris off the roadway, and or graffiti removal. And he'll have a stay-away order, and he is able to handle all of his probation in Virginia.
Okay. With regards to the stay-away order, now I assume that because it was said that Rihanna and he still had kind of a relationship going on, that's going to make that extremely difficult.
Well, I don't think they were saying so much that they had a relationship going on. I think what they indicated is that they come into contact repeatedly at the same functions, and that was the problem with having a stay-away order.
She was not pressing for a stay-away order. What's the other possibility there other than a stay-away order?
Well, it is the equivalent of a stay-away. It's a protective order.
Right.
And that she was not asking for that. However, the courts in domestic violence cases do make sure that they impose them later on to be taken off if the purported victim wants it to be. And now that he has pled, she is in fact been deemed the victim. In addition, he's going to also have to do 52 domestic violence counseling classes, which is once a week for the next year.
Is this typically punitive enough in cases like this? I mean, in this particular case, because she was assaulted pretty severely, is this common? Is this a common sentence?
Well, that's a tough question to answer. Every case is somewhat differently. You have a young man who has great promise, who has no prior criminal record, and no subsequent actions on his part since this one event occurred the night before the Grammys. Is it typical? No, it's not typical. Usually there's some custody time. However, I think that if he was given custody time, he might have ended up doing home confinement because of the security risks that he would be harmed himself in a custody facility.
Is there a chance, should they decide, Rihanna and Chris, to remain connected in some way, for the judge to change the stay-away order to a limited protective order?
In any way, it could be a limited protective order. It could also be just don't harm and molest as a term and condition without any sort of time frame and or distance that they have to stay away from each other. The other thing that was not discussed extensively, but at the time he completes his probation, the count that he pled to is what's called a wobbler in California. It could be either filed as a misdemeanor or as a felony. And that means that the prosecution later on may be served with a motion from the defense to lower this case to a misdemeanor. And that can be done pursuant to a code section, which is 17b4. And when they 17b4 it, it becomes a misdemeanor. And then at that time, Chris Brown could actually ask for it to be expunged off his record at a later point.
So at this point, this terminates the criminal proceeding, but is there a chance for any sort of civil suit coming after this?
There's always a chance. In fact, now there's no longer a need for her to have a full-blown trial if she wanted to sue him. This would, in the standard of proof for a criminal case is beyond a reasonable doubt, significantly higher than needed in a civil case. So they just take his plea and they can end up using that in a civil case, and then they just have to find out the amount of damages, and that would be awarded. I doubt that's going to happen in this case, and I think that no one would ever, the two parties don't want to have bad publicity, and if there were medical bills, they'd be paid quietly behind the scenes.
It sounds like both parties are ready to move on. And this type of sentence, too, I mean, it's 5 years, and it requires lots of effort on Chris's part. It seems like it'd be fairly easy to break his probation.
Well, I believe I read that it came out to 1,400 hours of community service. The equivalent of community service has to be done. That's a lot of community service, and it gives him 5 years to do it. But he's going to spend a lot of weekends cleaning the highways or
Mm-hmm.
removing graffiti.
And then proving that he was there, and it has to be severe enough. I think the judge said something that it had to be sort of hard labor, kind of, right?
Well, that's the two that were imposed. They are considered much more stringent than just simple community service, where you can go to a religious institution and put stamps on envelopes.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate your time. Michael Kraut in Los Angeles at Kraut Law Group. He's a criminal defense attorney. He's a former deputy DA and a prosecutor. Thanks for taking time out of what I know is a very busy day for you, Michael.
Thank you very much.
This is Scott Drake. You're watching the Legal Broadcast Network. This is Scott Drake, and we know that as an attorney, you're very busy. That's why we have more content just like this at your fingertips, conveniently located at legalbroadcastnetwork.com. Thanks for watching.